Oh, I'm so stoked. Okay, this looks so good. Yo, what's good, gamers? What's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Terao, and as always, we're joined by Casey. Casey, say hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. But most
And today,
importantly, I'm excited we got a guest.
yes, and today's Mind and Munchies plus one with the insightful and powerful Coach Yip, Coach Robert Yip himself, of Immortals. What is the? How would you like to introduce yourself? Say hi to everybody, my boy.
Hi, Robert Yip. I am from Immortals. I'm the director of esports and performance here.
I got you.
Very happy to be on the show.
Just a little bit of right there, and just there you go. Just a little dust. Nice. Well, welcome. We're so excited for this. Actually, Robert, you're our first guest here, so thanks for breaking it in and joining us this morning, dude. Super stoked to have a conversation with you, the three old men of esports and performance nutrition. We're just gonna follow the bouncing ball. So, what we do here is we start every session with a thorns and roses, and as the first guest, we're gonna throw this to you, Robert. So, bro, what's been some thorns and some roses, some highlights and some lowlights of your week, man? What you been up to?
My week. It's Friday. Flying by. Thorns, 100%. I'm going to Japan tomorrow.
Did you pack?
That's not a thorn, man. Come on, you'd be excited.
I don't travel very well. It's a thorn and it's a rose. Like, I'm not very good on the flight. If I can sleep on a flight, I'll feel great when landing. But I'm not looking forward to what is it, like a 12, 13-hour flight?
Yeah.
Pretty long.
Yeah. Did you pay for like economy plus? That's the move.
Right when you're my height, every economy is extra leg room, so it's actually real nice. It's real good. Honestly, traveling sucks for me, but I think that looking forward to going to Japan. That's my rose. My thorn is actually, gosh, I'm in the midst of my thesis for my postgrad for psychology.
Ooh.
And the psychology postgrad is kind of like the sports psychology postgrad that I did before, but without all the fun sports parts. It's just clinical. So yeah, kind of like slogging through. But actually, it's going to be about esports. I'm kind of excited to start.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey,
Fun.
That's exciting.
I'm just going visualizing your spreadsheet that you showed us for your trip to Japan, and man, that seems like a lot of fun, dude. From you like bouncing around, exploring, sleeping, and then like exploring some more.
30 minutes in each area, sprinting from place to place, like pushing Japanese people out of the way to get on the subway. Like, gotta get through the itinerary as fast as possible. I'll be squeezing in there. I've seen videos of it. It looks kind of crazy.
As long as you throw your arms back like this and run, I think that's socially acceptable, right?
I probably move a little bit faster as well.
Better wind drag or something.
Yeah, you went to Japan, Casey, right? And
I've never been.
Ryan?
Ooh, yeah, I've been. I went last November. That shit is awesome. Except I learned how loud I am and not Japanese I am. Yeah.
You learned that just in Japan.
Oh, I learned that also in Europe. That was funny. Like, oh yeah, you're really American. I'm like, I've never been described as an American before, but yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Do they not like you because you're American? Is that the?
No, they just threw a lot of gun jokes and stuff at me, and I was like, yep, that's what we do. That's why we're so good at CS:GO. Yep.
I made reservations kind of using like my Irish passport. You know, you have to put in your residency, and I can technically put in America because it's a green card. But I just put in Irish, just in case, maybe I will be received slightly better.
There you go.
And they're like, Conor McGregor? Conor McGregor.
That happens so much, actually. Like, where are you from? Like, I live in the furthest away place from Conor McGregor. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But Connor, right? You know him. The same pub.
Yeah. Same pub, same guy.
Same pub. Yep. Same gym. Absolutely.
Yeah, we work out in the same gym. I'm a sparring partner, actually. So not a successful one.
Did you get a reservation at that the Sushi Master, like that thing that requires like months in advance to go to? There was a Netflix special about it. I can't remember what it
like
was.
Like Jiro Sushi guy.
Yeah. You have to train for like years before you can even.
Just cooking
rice. They're like, okay, you're gonna be on rice for 5 years, and then maybe we'll let you look at a fish.
Don't even look at the fish. Only deal with rice. I did the TikTok thing. I got a reservation at the omelet guy.
Oh, nice! You have to video that. That's the slice.
Yeah. The weird thing is for that is they sell out like very, very fast. The reservations go insta. So like I went on they do it every Sunday at 11 in Japan, so it's like 7 p.m. here. So I went on and I booked it, and I guess I was, all my PC skills actually paid off. All the League of Legends that I played just to get it. Because the next week I went on Sunday, and the entire week was booked out in 40 seconds.
Wow.
So
The
I guess
pathing was unreal.
I just got lucky.
That's crazy.
How about you, Casey? How's your week? How's your thorns and your roses, man?
Okay, all right. I'll say on the thorn side, it's kind of a little bit of a rose, but it's just been a really, really busy week. Like I've probably been putting in at least 12 hours a day every single day, and my sleep has been significantly reduced this last week. It's just been really, really busy with work between a bunch of different things going on. So that's been kind of rough. I'm definitely noticing that I'm pounding back a little bit more of the coffee. To try to filter. Like yesterday my eye was like twitching and I was like, okay, this is bad.
Oh, that's
like,
how you know it's working, bro.
Yeah, that's yeah. So it's just been like really, really, really busy. Which it's never a bad thing if you're really busy, but that so that's been a little bit rough. And then somewhat more like a real thorn was I just found out that I was in talks with the place where I got my master's, Cal State LA.
Oh, nice.
I teach there, and I teach at UCLA as well. I teach at a couple places, but there was a new class that the director and me were working to develop, and that she was like really, hyped about it, and we were looking to have it launched this January.
Ooh.
And then she messaged me just 2 days ago and said, hey, unfortunately, we can't get approval for it for January, but we will get approval for it in fall. So that was a little bit disappointing. I was like, man, like we put all this effort in to try to get it to go. And it's not that it's just, canceled or anything. It's just it's getting pushed back a little bit. Yeah. There's like some coding regulations with their workbooks or something like that, where they're like, okay, well, this class is not approved for hybrid or remote right now, and we can't update that until next year's academic year. So I was like, okay, all right, well, I guess it is what it is.
It's like an esport nutrition or nutrition performance or just nutrition course?
It's it's a special topics in nutrition. It's an elective class, and it's in how we structured it is I basically have free reign to kind of talk about whatever I want to, but I'm going to be talking a lot about just how can we leverage nutrition for performance metrics of kind of whatever. So this one's the undergrad one. I do teach a graduate level class over there. That's a little bit more high level, but this one is kind of supposed to be a little bit more fun. And I hope that I can have people, test out some strategies and some supplements and things, and just talk about it. So it should be a fun class. I'm just bummed it's not happening right now because I was really jazzed about it. So that was the other big piece of news that I got.
Good, but sad. So delayed, but still happening.
Still happening. So yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer. I was kind of bummed about that, and my motorcycle's still broken. But I am borrowing a truck this weekend, and I've decided I'm just going to take it in to get it repaired. So I've decided it is beyond my skill level. I can no longer fix it. I fixed so many things on this motorcycle, but finally, I'm giving up. I'm throwing in the towel. It's time for me to, call a professional, get some real help, have them just take care of it, and then I can go for it.
At the same time, I'm proud of you because, like, that's very good to know, like, okay, I've done exactly all I can do. Now it's time to ask for help because a lot of people, especially dudes, can't do that. So good job, Casey. Good job. I'm proud of you, man.
I mean, I was stubborn for a couple of weeks. Like, I've been hanging on to it. I'm like, I can figure this out. I can fix it. I bought this device that lets me read like the voltages through wires and stuff, and I was like, I suspect an electrical issue, and I was like, okay, what are you doing? You're not an electrician. You don't know shit about electricity. You don't know anything about electricity. What are you doing, man? And so I was just like, all right, yeah, you're right. But like talking to myself, I'm like, you're right. I need to just stop this.
And after that, I got shocked, and I was like, that was this moment. I was like, I'm done. Yes.
Yeah. Dude, getting electrocuted is my like least favorite kind of pain. I absolutely hate it. Like I've been shocked multiple times, and it's like the worst for me. I cannot tolerate that. I refuse it.
I just have more questions after this, but I'll save them for later.
It's not a common occurrence.
I had this fork one time, and I was just interested in what this hole does, and I found out real fast that it's not fun.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got going on, Ron?
Dude, I'm trying to think. Like,
are you still skating?
Yes, I haven't fallen down yet. That's good. Although there were some close calls, so maybe that's like this week has been a lot of. I'm trying to reframe it. Like, it's been challenging, but all the things that I've been challenging myself to do are good things, like the skating thing, or I've been I'm trying to write this thing now or put out this program, so I'm like beginning the introduction of like clinical psychology book that I want to like put out. So I'm like starting that, and that's just so reminding my dissertation. I'm like, I remember when I wrote this 300-page thing, and I want to shoot myself, but here we're doing it again. So here we go. And then the editing for like Photoshop or Adobe, like I learned how to make captions pop in and out, like doing all this kind of stuff. So it's the finally like, okay, it's all coming together, luckily. So more roses than thorns, I guess, but all the banging my head against the wall seems like it's coming to fruition. And now the biggest rose is this conversation at the end of the week to cap it all off, man. So I'm just stoked to be here.
Can I ask a small little question to both
Yeah,
of you
go for
guys
it.
actually? So there was just a faculty meeting for both of the universities where I teach, and they were talking. They're like finally acknowledging, you know, the AI tools that are out there like ChatGPT and so on, and they're noticing that lots of students are, you know, turning in their homework with just, you know, answers autofilled from basically ChatGPT. And so they have these like scanners and things to try to catch it, but they don't really know how to because it's getting better. So the flags are becoming less accurate. So anyway, my question for you guys, for both of you, because both of you guys are, you know, kind of you're working on a book, you're working on, you know, your postgrad. Are either of you guys leveraging any kind of AI tools to help you out with this now that they're so freely available?
No.
No? Okay. Just
Maybe
old
I
school.
should,
Just
like,
old school,
Held at
just doing it.
gunpoint is like, no,
Maybe I
of course
should
not.
have. No, I mean, I
I mean,
think-
like, because I've seen people do it where it's like, okay, I just want to structure it, like, give me a sample outline or something, and then it's like, okay, and then I'll fill in the blanks, you know, or whatever. I don't know. I'm just asking if that's something you guys have been trying to utilize to help, you know, speed you guys along.
I'm more old school, and I think if I did use it, I would feel like I cheated.
Mm.
That's what I would think.
I'd
Just
like
me
to have the moral
producing
high
it.
ground like that,
Yeah.
like Ryan does. I am the guy that was like, what was it? When Vine came out, it's like, nah,
Yeah.
it's just a fad. It's just gonna go away. And then Instagram came out, like, nah, it's just a fad. It's gonna go away, like MySpace. And then TikTok came out, like, once again, a fad. I miss every single trend. Like, I just miss it. I'm blindsided by it completely. So, like, for AIs, I was like, it's not. I know it's not a fad, but it's like I'm just so behind the curve when it comes to stuff like this that I just haven't been able to get on top of it.
Mm.
And like even my mom's using it now, and I just feel so far behind the times. So it's
That's how you know it's bad, if your parents are doing something
well,
tech that you aren't.
she's using it for like her
Oh.
life. Like, oh, let's make protein muffins, and then it spits out a recipe. And she's like,
Oh.
oh, I want protein muffins that have like this in it, and it spits out
See-
a slightly different recipe, and then she makes it. Like that's how you're meant to use it, really, not
That's
for.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've used it to like, for example, like what's the best hashtags to like post this content, or like what's the best hashtags to like for us to find our stuff. But I haven't used it to like write me thing about esports psychology introduction. Like I haven't done that yet. But I saw
Interesting.
another TikTok thing when they said like, oh, the schools are seeing more AI generated things. I
Yeah.
saw another thing where the teacher's like, yeah, let them use it and bring it in, and then we have to talk about it and critically break it down of why it looks like this. So because you can't stop them from writing it, but what you have to do is challenge their ability to critically think instead of just spitting it out. And I was like, oh, I like that. Debate it, talk about it, because they're going to use it. I mean, they're going to use it. So
It's kind
how
of
can we
interesting.
leverage it.
You guys probably both saw the show. It was to do with the doping situation.
Oh, Icarus!
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
fucking
So
love
That's
that
like one of
one.
my favorite movies of
Oh,
the
I
movie.
love Icarus. I really wish he finished it instead of like breaking down, but
the AI part is kind of like the universities have to keep up with the AI, with the cheaters. So like it's kind of like an arms race for detection and making better AI at this point.
You can use an AI to detect AI.
Oh my god! And then they both become self-aware and like they just agree to like, don't worry, I won't rat you out. You don't rat me out.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
actually, yeah,
It's
no
the start of
one thought
Terminator,
about-
I think.
But no one thought about the Terminators that might be on our side, but they wouldn't be. But I'm just saying, like, no one thought about that.
Do you want to hear my 4D plot twist for the Terminator 2 movie?
Yeah,
For Terminator 2,
Yes.
okay, Judgment Day, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's
Best
the good
one,
one.
by
in
the
this
way.
one.
Best
yeah,
one.
I love that one. It's the best one.
the whole time he basically is in the end he's trying to start Skynet. He needs it to happen. He's like, this has to happen, right?
Mhm.
So he's like, yeah, this is just how it's supposed to go. So in my mind, he was sent back by Skynet, so Skynet would become active. But actually, the T-1000 was sent back by humans who are actually a lot more advanced to try and stop Skynet from actually happening, because it was Skynet
Oh,
who
a
sent back his
double.
raggedy old kind of crappier version because it was losing.
So it's like double agents. This
Yeah, and in the end, it
interesting.
should be like an M. Night Shyamalan bit of a twist where, you know, it was like
See?
the human one was the good one.
That would be a better twist than how it actually went down, honestly.
Yeah. Did
Like-
you guys ever? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say you couldn't beat. They could never make something better than liquid metal. Like, let's be real. Anyway, sorry. Go on, Casey.
Yeah, the liquid metal thing is kind of nuts. Did you guys ever see the Rick and Morty episode with the time travel and like the
Which one?
Yeah.
No, it's the only one with time travel because they refuse to do time travel. So
With,
it's the one with the snakes, the sentient snakes or whatever.
Yes, I think I've seen parts of that. Wait, I remember.
believe
I've
so.
definitely seen it, for sure.
So it's funny because
Oh yes, that's right. They throw the fake snake back into the other like fully like the Earth snake into the snake colony, and they're like trying to figure out where the snake came from, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
but then what happens is like because they actually do invent time travel, what happens is they send like a Terminator back to kill the other thing, and then they send another Terminator back to kill that thing, and they send another one to kill that one, and then it's like there's just literally Terminators dropping from the sky,
Yeah.
like they're raining all at this one time point because everybody's like, okay, we got to get one step ahead of it, you know. So then it's just like, yeah. Anyways, funny. So
I'm
check
sad
that
that
episode.
I wonder if they can continue making it because of the things that happen in Rick and Morty, but it's so good.
But I think they
First-
are. They just have a new voice actor.
Oh,
Yeah. He
I
sounds the same.
I love the OG, like the first season was so good. First season so good.
chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep summer
Amazing.
safe. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, old people in esports.
Yes. Our
And
arthritic
with-
fingers.
Yes, with our featured big brain downstairs, Mr. Coach Robert Yip, doctor soon, master.
Master. I don't think I have the brain for a PhD. As in like I've seen too many of my friends go into doing a PhD, and then I see them afterwards. I'm like, oh my god.
You've aged.
They look like they're under a fifth kid kind of a situation. I'm like, oh no, I'm single. I'm unmarried. I don't have any kids.
So, tell us your
Wait,
story,
can I
dude.
s-
Like, oh, go on.
Can I say real fast though?
Yeah.
I feel like Master sounds more
I
impressive
was just
than
I was
Doctor.
thinking that too.
You know?
Absolutely. Yes.
Like I would rather be a Master.
Master Chief. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that too.
Just saying.
Seriously,
Anyway, sorry.
we have to
Yeah, go ahead.
rebrand. So, Master Robert, tell us, how did you like get into esports? Like, how did you end up here? What is the origin story?
A hit marker job application. No, it was not that.
I was like, wait, that's gonna be epic. Please, yes, go on.
Yeah, no.
We're looking for
I'll
a
tell you
graphic
about how
designer,
I filled out
actually.
a form. Yeah. Graphic design is my passion. I went to school for physical education in the UK, and I was doing sports psychology, sports science, coaching modules. I'm like, hey, I like this more than teaching. And I thought to myself, I can get into teaching when I'm older because the experience will lend me towards being a better teacher, surely, than a 21-year-old, 22-year-old. So I started doing that, graduated, wanted to work with teams, so did a strength and conditioning CSCS qualification, worked with teams, realized that they would tell me all of their problems with home, the coach,
Wow.
their teammates, and I was like, there's a missing component here that I was not aware of. So I looked to see where I could do a sports psychology master's, and I did that in Ireland. And after that, I was like, my friend was trying to get me into esports for a long time for StarCraft, and I was like, nah, I'm good, bro. And he'd pester me all the time. This is 2011 when StarCraft was like popping off.
Banging.
Yeah. And he sent me like a couple of links, and I watched it, and I was like, like I'm just watching people like just visibly tilt on stage or like feel really nervous or, just be very emotional in general. And it seems to be well set up, decently funded, but not well supported. And I reached out to a bunch of teams, and Team Liquid got back to me, Victor from Team Liquid, and he says I might have a guy who's interested, and that was Dario, who's TLO, the little one. And started kind of like just working with him on the side while he was just like competing, because it wasn't really a space where coaches got paid in StarCraft, and League wasn't really a thing. They didn't really have coaches or paid coaches. So I did that till 2015. I did a presentation at a coaching summit for periodization in esports, and thankfully I had someone watching, and then I I worked with Origin that summer. I helped them out, and then I had an interview with Noah for Immortals and Dylan, and they're like, "Hey, we're building something," and I didn't know too much about LCS at the time, but I did a few interviews and they liked it, and I remember they called me. I'm in Ireland at the time, and it's like, we're interested. Do you wanna come to LA? And like, it's like a scene from a movie. I'm on my phone, and then I'm like, I open up my curtain slowly, and it's like pouring rain, like just the worst rain you've seen. Normal day, normal day.
Normal day, yeah.
And I'm just on the phone, just like, yeah, I'd like to move to LA. Push the curtain back again, and then he's like, all right, and we'll see you. And then yeah, I just moved over at the end of 2015, and I've been working in LEC and LCS since then. Mostly as a
Damn.
performance coach, partly as a head coach. Yeah, I think it's the performance side is something that's always like interested me because I've been on like so many different teams, so many different players from so many different backgrounds, and it's kind of just really trying to figure out like I've gotten more into like how to make a team work than how to make the individual work as I've gone on, because I've learned more about like what actually constitutes a functional team. And then the more I've worked, the more you've actually realized like the environment itself, the setup, the hierarchy, delegations, role clarity, all play actually probably a lot more into it than like a person's individual feeling, because everyone is affected by their environment a lot more. So that's how I started it. And I've touched on like a bunch of esports, from League, Dota, FIFA, Counter-Strike, just everything pretty much. Valorant, like it's the only thing I've not worked with is major esport.
Rocket League?
Oh, Rocket League. Yeah, it's probably that one.
I want to get into Rocket League. Apparently, everyone's been saying like everyone's super cool in Rocket League. Like it's like they're really nice, professional. There's only 3 people instead of like 5, so it's like
Yeah,
more
that's
chill.
easier.
And especially if like, okay, my favorite handshake in Rocket League I've heard is like if 2 cars smash each other like this, like they don't move. That's it. Like that's it. Now it's a 2-on-2.
That's it.
Yeah,
Does
that's it.
stop?
Like that's
Wow.
yeah. If they get stuck, that's it. Like the handshake is we just stay stuck. If I get blocked and you get blocked, that's it. Like what a handshake. That's it. That's crazy. And I think Rocket League would be perfect for you because it's like soccer, FIFA, as a FIFA king, previous life, but with cars.
Yeah. It's like it should be perfect theoretically. I play driving games, Gran Turismo and FIFA. It's the same
There you
thing,
go.
right?
Oh,
Surely.
There you go.
Gran Turismo. Yeah,
Literally
absolutely.
the same thing.
Need for
Yeah.
Speed. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
exactly.
There's something that you said in there though that I want to just like call like a little bit of admiration to, because I've seen so many coaches who get really, a lot of them are like former pro players themselves, and they get really fixated on whatever the unique strategy was that allowed them to be successful, and then they try to kind of force that on the team that they're working with. They just get pigeonholed into this like one idea. It's like, okay, it's all about the laning phase or something like that, right?
Hmm.
And because that was their method of success, or whatever it is. But your background is just like so different, and you're able to try to look at this more holistic like team approach for it. And I think that is something that is like truly desperately needed in esports, because there's in esports we just have this like dearth of coaches who actually know how to coach, and we just have these coaches who just come in as former pros and are like, I just know how to do the one thing that I know how to do, right? So, and you've probably seen that too, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just the question I'm having on that for you, Robert, is like, all right, as like director of like performance at Immortals, like how, if you had full authority, power, control over constructing a team, how would you do it? Like, what are the qualities in like people or skills? Like, how do you balance all those things and like pick them? Because I'm guessing, someone like you wouldn't say, Ryan, I just look for the top players in each role and I pick those ones, and then I create this super team, and then I find the best coach or the winningest coach, and then that's
Just pick the top 5 people on the ladder all the time. It's going to work
Yeah.
100% of the time, right?
Yeah, I've got four supports and an AD. It's like,
Yeah.
that'll do.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to work. It's going to work great. Trust.
Trust.
I think for any team, it's a lot easier when you have a track record of like doing well for yourself. So I think that,
for yourself.
as in like if you have someone who has shown like capacity in the past to like pick rosters, it's a lot easier to trust that guy, because for the most part it becomes like a process where like everyone's giving opinions and things. So when you're in those situations, it's kind of trying to figure out like if we can find the best fit for everyone, so everyone's kind of happy with it. So to go back to your point about like picking the best players, like often the best players don't make the best team, but there's like a benchmark, a prerequisite of like mechanical ability or game knowledge, just when you're indexing towards certain stats that you need in order to be like a good pro. And I think that once you have a list of those players, it's about trying to find out how. So if I start off with you, Ryan, for example, right, I'm gonna look at the full like 1 HP team and be like, all right, like Ryan is this sort of a player. I know him quite well. Which would be the best player, I guess, like to place around him to augment him that will cover his like weaknesses, or like even just augment his strengths. If you're a heavy carry player and Elliot is a like good facilitator player that like
Aaron
likes to
Top, yeah.
help,
Mm-hmm.
yep. He's not that much. He's a solo adventurer. Um, I haven't played with him, but I need to. But like basically trying to figure out like how not to get the best pieces, but how to get the most out of the pieces that you have. And sometimes like the best fit for your team isn't the next best player. It could be like the third or fourth or fifth best player because he actually augments your team a lot more. And that's like how I truly feel about like roster creation. It's like more about the fit. It's like when you're looking at even like how coaches do draft, you get your 1, 2, 3, and then like for your 4 or 5, it's like let's just get a good counter pick. Let's get a strong 4 or 5. But I think it's about getting more like how can you get your 4 or 5 so that it actually like augments what you have. If you're 1, 2, 3 is like if you're full dive at that point, you're not gonna draft champions that don't play into that narrative. And I think that teams that have a really strong idea about like what identity they want to have, and hopefully IMT are going to have that going into like next year, because we've done a lot of like as soon as the season was over, we were just in super long meetings with the staff that we have carrying over to try and figure out like what we value and what kind of players would like work in that situation. So like if you have a player who doesn't want to work hard, but we value working hard, then it's like that guy's going to be gone in a year or sooner, or we're just going to feel resentment because he doesn't share our ideas. So it's trying to figure out who we think would work in that system. So I think that thematically, it's really important to have the correct players so that, you know, uh, I've had teams whereby scrims are over, they do the review, they instantly spin around their chair and they just load up solo queue. There was no talk about like, hey, we're going to stay after hours and play solo queue. It's just like, it's just who they are. It's to what they would do irrespective of teammates, irrespective of like rules or culture on the wall. They did it anyway. So it's trying to find those players that kind of really value. If you're a team that values like being social, hanging out, building camaraderie, you don't want guys that instantly clock out at 5.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So in that sense, like, do you start with like a player? Do you start with the coach? Do you start with your piece? Like, where does that even start?
It depends. Ideally, you want to start with a coach. You don't want to start with players, and then you just like copy and paste your coach after you built a roster, and you're like, "Here you go, I made this for you." And he's like, "Wow, I'm allergic to like all of these things. Like, this is not for me." So you want to kind of like do a little bit of both. You want to, especially if you're starting from scratch, right? If I already have a coach and it's Coach Casey, then I'll obviously work with him to try to build a team that he wants to coach, and players that have the same shared values. But if you have nothing, then you kind of do both at the same time. You kind of look at players, you look at coaches, you try and figure out like who would work with who. You look like player and coaching histories and figure out like when they were successful and why they were successful. Like, was it because they had a full authoritarian coach? Was it because they had a coach who was a good facilitator? Was the coach indexing high on game knowledge but low on social? Cool. We need an assistant coach that can kind of like balance that out, etc. So a lot of those things like play a part. But at the end of the day, people can interview very well. They can say the right things. They can say, I'm a hard worker and I'm coachable. And then they come in and like, I'm not playing that and I'm not playing solo queue. They can kind of say what they want. So it's trying to figure out from their history and from what they say. And, if you can kind of like read people that, hey, I think this guy will be a good fit for the program for next year. And I think it's important for multiple people to be looking at different things, like to index towards different things. I'll be looking at attributes of a player in a different way compared to like other people that are in the off season preparing for us. And I think that the problem can sometimes be that maybe you have like one person who's doing it who's like highly indexing towards something that maybe not be super key, or maybe doesn't have enough background knowledge or isn't endemic enough to the space to understand like the context behind successes and failures.
Damn.
How I'm really curious. How big is the scoutable pool in League? actually? Like you said, there's a base level of requirement. So are people scraping the bottom of the barrel by the time we get to the last, team in LCS or whatever? Or is it like the scoutable pool is actually like thousands and thousands of
Massive.
players deep, and you kind of have your pick of the crop, and it's more about, picking those? Like I'm curious how big the scoutable pool really is.
It kind of depends. Like if you had an academy team, you can take more risks. You can
Hmm.
bring up someone that maybe doesn't have experience or is like from solo queue
Yeah,
specifically. For LCS, it's probably safer or better to like pick guys that have LCS experience, have played in academy, have
of
played in
course.
minor regions. It's quite rare for someone to go straight from solo queue to LCS. I think going back maybe Danny had a huge, really fast rise from
Yep.
where he was to getting LCS. Mike Young came directly
Hmm.
from school in solo queue. I think he like finished high school or something, and then was like instantly on P1. And
Yeah.
What
he
a
won.
dream.
He
What
won.
a dream.
I know he
Yeah.
won Rookie of the Split. Like it's rare for that to happen, and I think that it depends on like the players you have around you, right? If you have very good players around you, you can make the jump, but to go from solo queue to LCS is quite a long jump to make. And I someone might be able to correct me or like DM me or tweet me or something. But like if there was a player that actually made that jump in LCS, for example, I think in LEC the baseline of your average player is just generally a little bit higher. But
Mm.
I think everyone has to go through the ERL academy system in LEC. It's quite hard. But I
Mm.
think in terms of like scoutable players, I think often we conflate age to experience, and I think biological age is not as important because you can pick up players who are 21, 22 in league and have only been playing for a while. And if you look at their age, you go, he's not that good. He's kind of old. He didn't start when he was 17, but maybe he picked up league 6 months ago and now he's challenger. That's quite a rise to play a game, kind of like commit to it and be, challenger after 6 months. I've seen players like that. And also like if you're quite experienced, sometimes you can kind of get stuck in your ways. You can kind of get stuck in this is how I do things, this is how I want to play, and I'm kind of like unchangeable and movable. But if you are a little bit, lower experience but older, it's like, oh, I'm willing to play whatever. I'm down to play whatever. Like the real secret is people used to think that players were washed by 24, 25. But there's so many players now. Once you started getting into 26, 27, 28, core JJ, older, playing well, performing well, nobody talks about age anymore. It's like, what? How old is he? It's like you never ask an esports player over 25 their age. You know
So,
that it's
so,
rude.
so is there a chance for
I was
us
gonna
to
say,
start the
Casey,
core of the team?
that's what
Yeah,
I've
man.
heard. I've heard
Leading
there's a chance,
questions.
bro.
I can't
That's what I
believe you
heard.
guys are
There's a
leading
chance.
questions.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
one to quash streams, so I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Elliot. It's like, welcome to the team.
Hey,
Mm.
let's go. So, Casey, there's the Golden Bachelor, and now there's Golden League. I think that's where
Oh my
we,
god.
the senior citizens, can play League together. That'd be fun, right? I think that'd be a wild game, bro.
We
Just
can
running it
implement.
down.
That's what Clash is invented for. It's for keeping the golden bachelors happy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's start it, man.
So when people say like for you, Robert, like, oh, I'm just so old, like I never be it, because I had this conversation like twice, like this week and last week, like, oh Ryan, like I don't think I'll ever make it because I'm just too old and blah blah. Like, how old are you? I'm 25. Okay, like, are you training though? Like, do you have like the actual like methods or process to go pro? No, just because I'm so old, bro, they'll never look at me. And I was like, Robert, what do you have to say to that?
It's hard. I think if you're older, for example, you probably need to have some experience because it's hard to like bring up an older player that has low experience and then kind of put him into a team. It's not there's no age gate for league. It's just really down to like skill and experience. And if you're good enough, it doesn't mean you will get scouted, but if you're good enough, you're good enough. You can still kind of like be competing in areas, but you need to find a way to like showcase what you have. I was talking to an academy player yesterday morning, and I was explaining to him how to get noticed. He was like, "I'm gonna hit rank one." I'm like, "Okay." Like, there's always someone at rank one. There's always someone going to hit rank one. They're always going to tweet about it, but that's not what's going to get you noticed. You need to like, we talked about his competition for his role, who's there, who would potentially be in the running for a spot that he might want to go for, what their strengths are, what his strengths are, how he can differentiate himself from those other people, so that when people are thinking about him, they don't just go, "Oh yeah, I guess he's okay." They go, "Oh, I hear he's really good at this," or "He's actually really good at this." So I think it's about trying to find your unique selling points, what makes you different from someone else, and then really lean into that.
Your
Damn.
USP. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, in that same sense, that when you hear people say, "Oh, it's just my age," do you think that's like a mental block or something that, like a not cop out, like a self handicap thing, or like a, "Oh, I'm telling myself this, thus this is the thing that makes it not possible."
It depends how you look at it. You can like reframe it, right? I'm 25. I have a lot more experience. I'm more mature. I'm able to focus on what I do. Like a lot of the things that maybe are afflicting like younger people. When you're 25, it's like, oh, I grew out of it. I'm just more mature. I take it seriously. I treat it like a job. I'm a professional. If you look at it that way, then that's fine. But I think that some people will still look at age and go, I know he's good, but also this 17-year-old is also good. And you know, people also think about young youth as being like when someone has an unknown potential, they equate that to unlimited potential. And
Mm.
that's not fair because I think having an unknown potential does not mean that you have an unlimited potential. I think it's the same as being a 25-year-old that has a relatively set kind of like ceiling. It's like, oh, I can see how good he is, but it's that new thing. It's the kind of looking at like a newer player and thinking, okay, he could be the best player in the world or he could be average, but I don't know and I kind of want it. It's a novelty bias, really. It's like this new thing. I already know about the 25-year-old. I've seen him play, but sometimes
The
that's
shiny
good.
new.
Yeah, sometimes like seeing a player and knowing what he brings is good because it might be that missing fifth piece for your roster that actually makes everything tick. There's been a lot of examples of teams that have gone from like bottom two, replace one player or two players, and then they go to Worlds or to go second place. Like Celebrate, good example. They changed mid and jungle, and they went from I think ninth place to second place in the LEC just past split. I mean, big pieces to change for sure, changing like your mid jungle, but I think that you can make these changes and like and find success. It's about trying to figure out like how the pieces that you currently have, like how they best function and what they need.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, as you know, us old people, now that we like coach younger players or players with unknown potential, kind of rising through the ranks and things like that, do you think we would have done things differently? Like, for example, if we were our players and we were like some older person's like, hey, do you want to like maybe sleep more? Like, hey, I want to like actually like be intentional how you budget your time, or be intentional how you practice these skills, or you know how you talk about these things, or maybe change some of these mindsets. Like, do you think you would have listened to yourself or us?
We're meant to say yes, Casey, right?
I think we're supposed to say yes to give ourselves some measure of credibility and clout, but I mean, I can say I think there are some aspects where I think I would listen to myself, and there are some other aspects where I think I would not listen to myself.
Yeah.
And I think the defining factor for me is like there were definitely periods where I you know was definitely a degenerate, right? But I think where I had real serious investment, like personal investment in something, I was very willing to listen to whoever it was. So like if it was a coach, if it was my parents, if it was like, you know, an experienced friend or whoever, if it was something that I genuinely truly saw as like, oh, this is going to be instrumental to my livelihood or my job or something, then I think I would listen. But if it was more like a hobby or like if it was just school or something, then I kind of didn't care as much. Like there were, you know, in school, like it's okay, yeah, I'm still gonna try. I'm gonna try for an A, but if I don't get enough sleep, who gives a shit? If it, you know, I'm taking naps, doing caffeine, like all this random kind of stuff. Like, you know, I was kind of letting myself go, but but if it really mattered, you know, so it's like, okay, I'm not gonna get 2 hours of sleep on the day before my SATs, you know, like on the day before my AP exams, on the day before my final exams, all this kind of, like I would do those things. I'm like, okay, these are actually pretty critical to my success in school at this particular time point, right? So I think the measure of my listeningness depends on the measure of like the actual impact. And I was never good enough to go pro for, you know, esports or traditional sports or anything like that. Ryan, I know you have like some, you know, you were kind of a hot shot, but like I was never good enough for those, right? So like I kind of could, like when I was when I was in high school, I played badminton, and they put me on
Nice,
the
dude.
yeah, they put me on the varsity team immediately because the net was like up to here on me, so I could just smack it down. Camera doesn't show, but I'm 6'5", and it was just a bunch of I'm 6'5".
Holy.
Yeah, and there's like a bunch of tiny Asians at my school who are playing, badminton, and it's like their heads at the net, and I'm just like coming over, and I just stand there, and I just keep doing this. So they threw me on varsity immediately, and that was fun for me, right? But I really didn't give a shit. Like if I lost, it's like I don't really. I'm just doing this for fun. I had no aspirations of going badminton pro. So I think that was kind of the differentiating factor for me. And once I had my 9 to 5, like a stock standard real 9 to 5 where I was salaried, I had like medical benefits and all this kind of stuff. I was actually like a real adult. That's where I started caring. That really put a switch in me. I was like, I can't get like even like an hour of less sleep than I should. Like I do much worse the next day. But when I was like my part-time jobs during college and stuff, like I didn't really care. It's like, okay, whatever. Like if you fire me from this, I really don't give. I'm gonna go work at the bookstore. It doesn't matter. Like I really don't care. So I think the caring really determines whether or not I would actually listen. But I like to think I would listen to well justified, reasonable answers from people if it like depended.
That's so funny. You're 6'5", just smacking the Asian kids with the badminton shuttle.
Yeah, it's true. I did that. Yeah.
They're just hopping around trying to smash the ball.
I took 2 steps and I was on one side of the court to the other side of the court. Like I didn't have to move at all. Like I'm just like, all right, I'm literally like the border's right there. Yeah, they gotta hustle. I did get like because we progressed pretty fast because I was on a doubles team. And
which was
just
actually a singles team that the other person was sitting in the corner playing.
Yeah, kind of is. We had a good time with it, but we progressed pretty fast. But once we actually played people who actually really knew how to do it, like I got smoked. Like I was never really good. Like I just was leveraging this one thing that I had going for me, which was I was tall and But like once we played real people who were actually, I think they ended up being like the CIF champions or something like that. But like once they played, like I just got it was like 0 points on our side. Like the real talent really showed. Yeah.
How about you, Master Yip? Would you have listened to yourself and the information you give to your players if you were your player?
I remember taking certain things seriously. If it came to like the day before a match, if it was anything involving training, I would always try to get good sleep and eat properly and hydrate beforehand. I take training like really seriously. So like we used to do a conditioning day Thursday where all the other athletes from all the other teams would be there for uni. And like I treated that like I'd be there like 30 minutes beforehand, like warming up. Like I treat that seriously because I wanted to look good in front of everyone. Like, it was the more eyes, the more seriously I took it. And when it came to like college and stuff, it was kind of dependent on like the module. If there was like I like stats, I like the psychology modules and coaching, like anything like that, apart from social psychology, that's
wild stuff. Love
that's
that.
wild stuff. But yeah, it just like you kind of like jump into it, you kind of get lost in it, you kind of like want to do well in it. You don't like the feeling of like being tired or being like run down or like not being fully there. So coffee is a godsend. I didn't have my first coffee till I was in America actually. So
not even
when
Irish coffee?
No, not Irish coffee.
Dang.
Maybe without the coffee.
Yeah.
I think that as you get older, you kind of like realize that like how important sleep is and how it actually affects you. I think when younger players are like they stay up a bit later, they don't really feel the effects of sleep. Part of that is because you are younger and it doesn't hit you as hard, but part of that is you've spent so much of your time consistently at a kind of like a fatigue
tired,
state.
Yeah.
You get used to it. You
This
actually
is normal,
get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your body just says, I'm not going to make you feel super miserable because we're just doing this every day.
Yeah, this is normal. It's like, please don't hurt me. And yeah, I mean, for players, it's just important for things like sleeping and like getting over jet lag and like trying to, like for the amount of people that say like, yeah, I didn't sleep very well. It's like, okay, like you are in control of that. You just have to do certain things that are kind of boring. There's nothing sexy about getting good sleep. It's actually like very easy, but it's difficult in the sense that it requires like a little bit of discipline and structure and practice. And the instant gratification monkey is telling you to like play another game or watch Netflix or hang out with your friends, but most of your friends are not pro gamers earning a lot of money. Their job is maybe like not as performative, so they can kind of do whatever they want. And I know like it's pro gaming can be very solo adventure, even on a team, because maybe you don't like your teammates as much. So you're hanging out with your friends, give you that social aspect, scrims, play solo queue. Oh, cool. I have 2 hours of my day to myself. No other job is like that. I remember I saw this kind of like cheese wheel segmented of like what athletes do under like in the day, and there's like you had Serena Williams, you had Roger Federer, and it's like a bit of training here and then some lunch and working on my business ventures, hanging out with friends and family, a little bit more training here, and then free time. And I'm like, that's for a traditional sports athlete. Then they had one for Faker, and it was just like sleep
Esports.
sleep 5 hours on a good day, and then like training here, maybe grab a bite to eat, training here, nighttime training here, and it was like a very you can just see the amount of work that you have to put into esports. It's just one of those things where once again not gated by physical limitations. You can kind of go in, and I think that it's we're going to talk about the kind of like life work balance in a minute, but I think that it's hard to say that NA players are lazy because they don't work as hard as Koreans, because to graduate from the Korean like League of Legends school, basically it's not an actual school, but you have to showcase that you're able to work a lot, like all those hours. So if you can't work 12 14 hours a day, probably you will kind of be pushed out to the side, and someone else younger or who works harder will catch up and kind of replace you. So it's not that they're all good because they practice that much. That definitely is like a very important aspect, but it's just like you're not going to find many Korean players that are very good and they practice like less, because like it's like the normal kind of like, hey, you need this in order for us to like pass you.
So
And
would
their player pool is bigger as well, so that's why it kind of like it's self-perpetuating.
So when you say like they work harder, is it like, do you think it's just time in game spent, or is it that they actually have like intentional progress in the game?
It's probably both. It's like you're working harder, you're also working more intensely because your spot is always like in question, or your coach is holding you accountable maybe, or like it's a combination of things. Like the actual culture, the work ethic that they have even outside of esports is like very, very strong. Like you think about the academia aspect in Korea, and it's so cutthroat. It's like very, very difficult. Like
The beauty standards is another example of that.
it's another one, and like these are standards that like as a kid you kind of understand, like if I have to achieve in something I have to give it my all, and by all like I have to sacrifice everything. And I don't think like there's been a lot of problems with countries or institutions trying to copy and paste what one country does to another, because it doesn't fit. It's like the body rejects the organ transplant, because culturally, I remember when I was in the UK studying physical education, we were talking about how they tried to copy stuff from Australia and it didn't quite work in the UK, like from a sporting development perspective, because it's just a different culture. And I think that I don't think you can just tell players in NA to work as hard as Koreans and that's how we catch up, because burnout's going to be a factor. It's going to be an issue where players are struggling more, and that doesn't mean they're any worse players or lesser people. It just means that their capacity to work as hard isn't as much, and you see that kind of across different sports, where we kind of like talk about like Michael Jordan or Kobe and like how much they work, etc. And you can't just tell all the other players in the NBA just work as hard as Kobe did, like just do that. It doesn't quite work like that. It's a very armchair analyst kind of an approach.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really, really interesting, because you talk about balance too, and is there even that, like, now we're talking about, like, is the definition of balance different for each culture, for example? Because Korean balance, like, if you were to say, okay, I work like 13, 12 hours a day, and then I go sleep for like 3 hours and come back and say hi to my friend and passing and we go back, I feel balanced. Versus if you go to US and you see like Serena Williams and she has the training and the business ventures and then hanging out with friends and then free time, like, okay, that's balanced for me. Like, do you think balance is more of like an individualized definition, or is it a definition that we just kind of get lost in the sauce?
I want to piggyback on that question too really fast. So like in addition to that, if you can also answer this. So how would you manage a situation where you have a team where you have a bunch of people from a bunch of different countries, and it's like, okay, I have like 2 Korean players, I got 1 EU player, and I got 2 NA players. How do I set up the training? How do I set up the training schedule in such a way that appeases everyone and all this kind of,
Yeah.
or is that just an effort in futility? Like, would you never recommend that, and you should only have people within one culture group on the
Like,
same team?
like the Koreans are like doing solo queue, and the two US players like, see, you're gonna eat chicken, bye.
Yeah. Like, I'm just curious.
It kind of depends on I guess like people's ability to put themselves in the shoes of the other people, right? Like maybe Ryan, all he knows is playing solo queue. He doesn't know about like VODs and stuff. He just plays solo queue a lot, and that's his thing. And he's got great success that way. Maybe Casey, you like playing solo queue. You give it your all in like in scrims and stuff like that, but you're not going to play till midnight. Maybe that's your thing, and maybe you play better because of that. You have to kind of like think about when a player says, "Oh, I just play better because I'm happier when I eat hamburgers." It's like, is that something that like they've kind of convinced themselves of, or is that actually something real? Like everyone has these like idiosyncrasies that will make
Players are
them
so
feel better.
superstitious. Players are
Oh
so
my god,
superstitious.
they're incredibly superstitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially about food. Sorry, I could talk about that for like hours.
Their favorite meal. It's like, oh, I won with this meal. I want this meal again next time. Then they lose with the meal. It's like, that meal is dead to me.
Terrible.
I need a new favorite meal for winning. But like for you, Ryan, like what exactly do you do to like when you have a hard day at work or you're working really hard or you notice you are, what do you do to, I guess, balance? And by balance is like not 50-50. It's what do you need to do in order to like cover the debt of the work so that you're not like kind of in the red for the next day?
Doom scrolling or hanging out with the wife and dog. I think that's just like stepping away from the computer and like doing something else that I either find more interesting or holds my attention, or something that I find more fun and enjoyable, I think.
Doom scrolling is just perpetually scrolling?
Just on the, like, lay on bed,
Oh.
doing research on TikTok.
Oh.
Research.
Research.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
research.
I do. Yeah. My wife does a lot of research.
Fall down the reality TV hole, because that's what Mimi likes watching. And
Okay, so you're like basically turning off your brain because your brain is so active from work.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Especially with my ADHD brain just bouncing all over the place, I need something where I can just like lay for a little bit.
Yeah,
Or else
not
it's
all
spirals.
minds who wander are lost. So
Wow, that's so
Whoa.
deep.
And it's never lost to
Is that
find it, right?
wait? Is that Gandalf or?
I'm freaking stealing that from Lord of the Rings, but
Yeah, I was like, that's Gandalf. Yeah. I was like, wait a second, that
wow,
sounds familiar.
that's a
real
Robert
fast.
TM right there.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I recognize that from.
I got on my screen around me. I've got just a list of quotes from movies and stuff. It's just like I'm stealing from right now.
If you can dream it, you can do it. Yeah.
I've got the Any Given Sunday speech ready to go over here on my
That's
left.
a good one, damn. That's a good one.
Casey, like for you, like what do you like to do to, I guess, like balance the books?
I, at heart, am really like a huge introvert. Who like I have to be extroverted for my job, and like, and I do a lot of one-on-ones with people, and I go talk, and I speak at universities and all this other kind of stuff. But that is such a like physiological drain for me. Like, I am so dead after doing like a presentation at a conference or something.
Yeah.
And that just obliterates any kind of like willpower to go do anything when I'm done with that. The first thing is I need to not be around people. So I just need to like be away from any kind of anything. So I do like to do, it's probably why, so our house is like in the middle of nowhere, and which I love, because I don't have to interact with people. But
introvert like house.
yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's secluded. But I mean, so for me, like, I have to be away from people, and then I like to do stuff that just makes me feel kind of safe, I guess. And so I'll like read a book, maybe I'll watch a TV show, or I could play a game with like all the chats turned off, so that way like I don't have to hear what any of the teammates are saying, and I can pretend that they're all bots, like it just has to be kind of me and by myself doing something that's just very light. And I do like some minor mental stimulation. I don't have to completely turn the brain off. Like, I like a engaging show, but it just has to be disconnected. So it's just got to be disconnected from things. I spend a lot of time with the dog, spend some time with the wife, but sometimes it's just, okay, I just need to go sit in a corner and read a book real fast, or something like that.
Okay. What are your thoughts, or what your guys' thoughts on active versus passive recovery?
Ooh.
For yourselves, and then like for, I guess, like for esports players.
I've never thought about it in the sense of mental shit. like I believe about it in like physical stuff because that's what we've done before. Like in training, I've done that for training, like active recovery, go for a walk or whatever. But I've never thought of that and tried to apply that to mental stuff because I feel like if I do like sometimes if I do the game thing like Casey, I would qualify as like okay that's active recovery. I'm using my brain kind of. It's in a passive, not passive, but in a different context, a more fun one. But if it doesn't go the way that I want, I get tilted, bro, and it's like now I'm doubly as upset and frustrated. So I would have to find an activity, maybe like Casey's, maybe like a one-player game. Like, but then again, I might get frustrated. Kind of. Have you ever played the game A Little to the Left? I've tried that to active
I have
recovery,
not.
maybe.
Never even heard of that game.
It's a. Well, I'll show it to you later. It's a Switch game, and basically it's like if you have OCD, you probably love it too because you have to organize different objects into a sequence, and there's different ways to organize them.
Is it always a little to the left, or?
And sometimes it's a little to the right, but
Okay.
it's you gotta figure it out. But I think that's my problem. If I do something more active, like trying to chew on something else, and it doesn't go the way that I want, then now I feel like I'm doubly as tired. But that's an interesting concept. I don't know.
I think the degree of the tiredness or the energy expended will dictate what I do for myself personally. Like if I'm completely tapped, then I do passive recovery. I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to sleep for 12 hours. I'm going to just like go sit down and do nothing. And it'll take me a while to like come back from that. But so like I'll say that, but then at the same time, there might be instances where it's like, okay, I have zero energy. I just want to go do nothing and be around nobody. But then like, I might get sucked into like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with a couple friends, go eat some food. And then I always walk away from those feeling refreshed and feeling like it was good. So I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between what I think might actually be best for me and what actually is best for me. And I kind of acknowledge that, but I'm just being completely 100% transparent right now.
Yeah.
So I think, but on the physical side, I mean, as much as possible in the realm of like workouts, I will try to do more active recovery kind of stuff. But there are some days where I'm just like so beat that I can no longer do things. But I mean, like, it's like, okay, if I can just like go for a walk, if I can do, I'm a huge fan of like the saunas, that kind of stuff. And it's like, if I can do those things, like I always know I feel better on the back end from it. But at the same time, if I just need to sleep in or catch a nap, usually sleep is my go-to fix for a lot of things. It's like, okay, I'm going to if I have some extra time and I need some recovery, I'm going to go take like an hour nap. Or I'm going to allow myself to sleep in an extra hour, those kind of things.
Wish I could nap.
What about you?
Uh,
Are you going to tell us that our answers are wrong? Because you probably know better.
no. I think it's very individual. I think it's like I think 9 times out of 10, it's like a social interaction. After you've done something like taxing but solo, I think is always really good. I think when you mentioned like the speaking at a conference, it's like that's a intensely kind of like public solo experience, but like your nervous system and everything is probably a little bit like an overdrive at the time. I think they're vegging out, lying down in your hotel room and like doing nothing probably feels great because like you're just overloaded with things. But I think that the more time we spend alone, the more we should kind of reach out or be open to interacting with other people, because I feel like that's the part that maybe we're missing, or we're still social creatures. We still need it. And I think like in esports, there's like a fake sense of, oh, but we're being social. We're a team. We're 5 people. Like, yeah, like I'm not even looking to my left or my right. I'm just constantly looking ahead. Like we're talking and we're not actually interacting with each other. We're interacting with things on the screen. So I feel like players don't really feel like they want to hang out with their teammates sometimes because they feel like they already are, or maybe that's even the source of their stress, but they need to hang out with their team in a non-stressed environment in a situation where it's not predicated around League of Legends. And I think I try to, or like I think that forcing that is actually important because their natural tendency is to avoid that said conflict or area of frustration. And scrims is not always a very enjoyable place because you are performative against good teams and you're trying hard to win. Everyone's trying hard to win, but they have different opinions and they're playing at full pace. Like it's not like you can kind of go through like a synchronized swimming routine. Okay, guys, we're going to do it at like half pace. We're going to learn it. It's like, no, we're going to do it while the enemy's trying to kill you. Like it's stressful. And that's why I mentioned active versus passive recovery, because sometimes the doom scrolling or whatever for players is like not a very effectual way of I guess like recovering from what just happened, especially if you have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes between a scrim, or you have 5 minutes to like reset yourself, right? You do it because you force yourself to do it, but there are things that you can do to kind of like trick yourself. But for me, I love going to the gym. I love playing soccer. I've gotten into ARAMs. Before I was no ARAMs, ranked only. And it was actually Parth that got me into ARAMs a few years ago. He's like, hey, you want to play an ARAM? And I was like, what's ARAM? He's like, what?
The funnest
like,
game mode ever.
Yeah. There's a pretty like tangible, like high elo ARAM kind of like,
dude.
It's, and I remember I played with a friend who only played ARAMs, and he's like, yeah, I'm in high elo ARAM. I'm like, okay, whatever.
What does that mean?
I don't know what it meant, but going from my elo ARAM where people are like, oh, this is fun, like we're just like trading stuff, it's fine. From minute one, you have people just absolutely ham-fisting each other until the end. Like, I've never played a game that's more animal than that in my life. And he's like, yeah, all of my games are like that. And his quote is like, that's ARAM, baby. No matter what happens, it's like a guy hits a snowball, ints himself, like, that's ARAM, baby. Or,
that's ARAM, baby.
One guy takes a 1v4 and he dies, like, that's ARAM, baby. And I started adopting that myself. So whatever happens, like, I killed myself, and he's like, that's ARAM, baby. Like, it's for good and for bad. And, like, it doesn't make it really enjoyable when, and I learned the rules about ARAM as well. Like, you don't end on your first push if you can, you know, you kind of milk it out a little bit more. So, no, it's really fun. I think that I actually like seeing when, like, pro players are, like, maybe playing ARAMs with their teammates, because it's just, it's a for fun. It's a social kind of thing that you do. And trying to create more situations where they can socially be themselves and not be judged off of, like, you know, how good their fingers are or game knowledge is, I think is really nice. I usually like to start off every year with having the time where it's not a game boot camp. It's, you don't scrim. It's like a person boot camp. I get to know both you guys first before I play, because then there's it's like the halo effect. It's like, if my first impression of you is good, then I'm more likely to equate every subsequent impression of you with a slightly more positive tint. Whereas if it's bad in the beginning, I'm like, oh my god, like Ryan inted me. Every interaction.
That's ARAM, baby.
That's ARAM, baby. No, we're scrimming, Ryan. Yeah, don't listen to it. It doesn't work that way. But
as an ACC, that's ARAM, baby.
yeah. It's like, okay.
I'm gonna start saying that in my regular rankings.
I literally think that's a great
I feed
tag.
in mid-lane. That's ARAM, baby.
We need some shirts. We need some shirts. That's ARAM, baby.
The worst one for ranked is when someone's like, "Oh, I thought this was a normal." It's like, oh, I love that. No, this is going to be bad. But basically, if I have a good interaction with you, Ryan, like everything after that is going to be like, yeah, like, I mean, he died, but like, it's fine. Like, I know why he died. But if I have a bad interaction with you in the beginning, I'm like, this guy, it's going to be like, yeah, he's a griefer. You try to explain why you died. No, let me tell you. Like, you're just.
It doesn't matter, bro. Yeah, because you suck. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always impress onto players or staff that your first impression is like so important going forward.
I
feel like there's so much of that social connection missed. Just I mean, if you compare just the generation after us, right? Like, you go like 1 decade above us. I gotta imagine that both of you guys, you know, you had school, you were interacting with people, and you had friends and whatever. You did hangouts and all that kind of stuff, right?
Friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a very small friend pool, but like, you still had them at school and social circles, I'm imagining, right?
Imaginary ones count, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they do. But then, like, you look at modern, and it's like, okay, we have the COVID era. You have people who are mostly interacting with people through social media and all this kind of stuff. And then it's like, even if you're a gamer, like, because when I grew up, it was like, oh, let's go have a LAN party, right? Let's hang out. Let's do this. Yeah, like that was fun, right? But that, you know, you'd play Smash with your buddy, you'd have the console games, all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But like nowadays, it's like, oh, like I'm hanging out with my friends, and it's like, but it's all digital, right? And it might just be a voice. You don't even get to see them or anything. And I do feel like that's missed a lot. And I don't know. I mean, you guys both work on the mental side, but I got to imagine if you were, I'm just going to make it like a bull. I don't even know if this is true. Maybe you guys can correct me or not. Like, do you think,
say it's true? Absolutely. Like this.
Do you think that, okay, if you were to do a split of like, I don't know, 25-year-old plus esports players and compared it to 25 and younger esports players, compare the mental stability of those
if they were
individuals.
equal hands and fingers?
No. Just like mentally, like, are like they emotionally better well off than the people who are younger? I'm gonna guess that the people who are a little bit older in esports are a little bit more mature and mentally, emotionally and mentally stable than those who are younger. That's my hypothesis. Is this true or not?
My answer is
I'm looking at Ryan's box right now.
I would hope so, because I'm thinking about CS:GO right now, and I'm thinking about the IGLs, and typically they're older players that have more maturity. They can explain things. They can keep their players in check. Then they actually someone they can look up to. And the system, I think in CS:GO is a little bit more straight. Maybe tac shooters, maybe more straight. I don't know about Overwatch, but I'd say CS:GO and like Valorant, maybe the structure is more straight. But I think when it comes to something like League, sometimes I've experienced what Robert has said, where more experienced players are more stuck. And like, oh, well, they should know this already. Why aren't they doing the thing? Or other players like Core JJ or even like Someday would be like explaining some things so they'd be around from their perspective or be more understanding or things like that. I haven't worked with Core, but from what I hear about Core, that's kind of the position he plays. So I would hope so. By the same time,
I've worked with both, by the way. Like I've worked with like really garbage mentally and emotionally, like really old people, and similarly young people. Like I've seen it on a spectrum, but I'm just hypothesizing here that like if we were to do like some bell curves, I would imagine the distribution patterns would be slightly offset.
I would hope so. But I'm thinking that they would also interact with each other differently, too, because of the times and cultures that we grew up in, I think.
What about, okay.
Huh?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so like, do you think at their age you were more emotionally mature? Or no? Were you the same?
Oh, man. I'm going to say me, myself, personally.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Me, myself, personally, I would have liked to think so. I think I had the insight of why I was feeling all these things. Like, I knew, but I didn't know how to appropriately express it. And I think going through graduate school, and like a clinical graduate school, and they make you reflect and think and teach you how to talk and, like, express things, I think that really helped me. But I know that so I would say, like, maybe I wasn't as mature with my execution, but in my head, I could kind of understand myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Robert?
I'd like to think I was more mature at that age, but I think that part of the beauty of esports is that how it like permeates through the different like kind of like age brackets, or like the kind of what do you call the brackets that are like millennials, Gen Z? What's that called? What's the whole thing called? The spectrum?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was
Okay,
generations.
but it permeates through that in a sense that you have, you know, coaches who are older having to work with people who are like Zoomers and who grew up with. When I grew up, God, I remember getting internet. Like I remember coming to the house.
Dude, I used to get free minutes and cereal boxes for like AOL or whatever, you know?
And like this one, we had like three-way calling, and you're on the internet, your mom was calling you to like make rice, and you couldn't do it, and she come home with rice not made, and you couldn't call you, and so like you get beat up. Just me? Oh. No? You? Wooden spoon? No? Okay. Traumas.
I remember having to choose between a phone and the TV channels.
Oh. What did you pick?
Well, I chose the TV, but mom said we're getting a phone. But like things that I remember internet coming. I remember getting my first computer. I remember getting my first phone when I was in high school. I think now people like you know you can meme about like iPad kids and stuff and whatnot, but like I didn't have technology until I was older, and I think that kids now they just get so used to distractions in their life that they're perpetually like attached to that distraction in their pocket or on their screen, and at a certain point, like finding your social circle is really easy online. Like you mentioned, Casey, like being on Discord and having like all your friends in a list that you can speak to that you know are instantly contactable instead of like, oh, I got to pay 40 cents a minute for my mobile phone or every
cents a text.
Yeah. It's like I'm filling up the entire text. I'm getting my money's worth. But like it's just so easy to connect with people, and I think that there was I can't remember where it was, but I saw like you need to have face-to-face contact with your contacts in order to maintain like stronger relationships. You can only have a certain number of like really strong relationships, and then auxiliary relationships, like people who have 1,000 people on Facebook, it's too many. Like you can really hold a certain number of actual friendships, and then of those you have to top them up with face-to-face as much as you can. And I think that it's just so too easy to have relationships online that even people who live in a city and maybe their entire friends group is not even in their state, for example.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I've got lots of friends. It's just I'd never meet them. I work, I
Yeah.
come back, and then I socialize on my PC. Like that's fine. I think that's just growing and developing with the technology that we have right now. There's no problem with that. I think that the only issue from my POV would be like, the face to face, the kind of like in-depth conversations that you might have. It's just more intense in person. You can have great conversations online. You can go deep in conversations. You can have that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think if you ever have an opportunity to meet up with people, you should always do it.
Absolutely.
Like go to the LAN, go meet up somewhere.
Yeah.
Double check who the person is you're meeting up with beforehand. Be safe. But just try
Absolutely.
to figure out like how you can actually like do those things. And I think for esports, like you can definitely hear it when a team says like when they're fully remote online, how difficult it is compared to when they're actually in person. How much more you can get done when you're in person. Like you can just like if we had cam off, for example, I wouldn't be able to see your expressions, Ryan. You're very expressive. I wouldn't be able to see how Casey reacts to something. It would just be based off of like their voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you miss a
Yeah.
lot of the nuances, even the nodding, which promotes me more to talk more and more. It's like, hey, he's digging this, right? Like I want to talk more to him now because he's giving me those affirmations. And I think in esports you need to have that. Even if you're online, how can you juice that up?
Yeah.
Cameras for sure.
Yeah.
Even jumping on 15 minutes beforehand for a pre-talk where it's not like, okay, guys, meeting at 12. It's like, no, let's jump in, players at 11:30. Let's hang out. Let's have like an open
Yeah.
Discord. Hey, I'm playing solo queue. Jump in whenever. I'll be streaming in the Discord. Like that's how you can help like juice up an online team. And I've worked with online teams, and there are just little tricks that kind of take them out of their comfort zone because 100% of their interactions are cam off, are
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
like more relaxed. And I think that coaches kind of have to look beyond that towards like how can we make the guys feel a lot closer even though they're online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that you may really think about, like even when you're saying like, yeah, why people are just sitting at their computers and they're physically next to each other, they're interacting with something on the screen that's not like together, physically together. It's almost
Yeah.
as if like it's still a version of parallel play. Like they're playing together, but still they're not actually interacting together, like in the physical world. And I
Yeah.
really thought about how that is more extended. You can still be parallel playing even though you're physically next to each other and you think you're interacting. And like, oh yeah, I'm so tired after work, I'm just gonna go home because I spent all day with my teammates. It's like, did you actually spend all day with your teammates, or were you just doing this thing and then you fought with these people on the couch after looking at this VOD?
At
Is
least
that
in
spending
CS:GO
time?
you have the fist bump, right? Like you
Yeah,
have that
exactly.
interaction. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. But in
Yeah.
League, there is no, I mean, outside of like small micro interactions, there's no difference
Rakan and
between.
Zaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working there. There's no difference between, I guess, like what happens when you're a remote team when you play a scrim and when you're an in-person team because you are focused on the same thing. You're looking ahead, you're talking, and then it's ideally, you snap your fingers, the game's over. That's when you have all of the advantages of being in person that you should be exploiting and using and like leveraging towards like how can we just use this time better than Team Liquid or Cloud9, for example. Like because the in-game thing is like that's a shared experience, like you said, parallel play as much as possible. But how can we use the time afterwards to like really benefit as much as possible? And I think you just have to get very creative in that sense. You have
Mm-hmm.
to drag people out of their comfort zone because comfort zone for people honestly is I'd prefer to play from my room. Like for not everyone, but for a lot of people, I'd prefer to play from my bedroom if I can. Like if you told them that, they'd be super happy. It's like they'd wake up 5 minutes beforehand, they'd
Yeah.
be wearing their sloth pajamas, and then they'd play scrims. But I think that they obviously value the in-person reviews and whatnot. It's just like, hey, I just feel more comfortable when I play the video game when I'm in my kind of comfortable spot. But you have to like push them towards, oh, you got to play in the office. It's going to be maybe a bit cold, maybe a bit hot, maybe there's a glare on your screen a little bit because you're going to get used to playing on stage when, oh, I'm not used to playing with a crowd or lights
Mm-hmm.
or a camera guy or with makeup on. It's like these are all things that you have to start kind of like preparing for. Is like the idea that being uncomfortable and playing well is as important as just trying to play well while comfortable. Actually, more important. So
And these are the things that people don't think about when they're like, oh, I want to go pro. Like, oh,
yeah,
it's just about playing the game good, right? It's like, oh, and also the social skills, and also doing the things that you don't want to do, like wearing makeup, or like taking the pictures, or doing all the social things, and the meet and greets, and like the training and the reviews. Like, that's all about being pro. Wait, I have to be
That's the fun
accountable.
stuff
Okay.
though.
What?
That's the fun stuff. I love that. Like that's the stuff that's different from like playing at home. That players, in my opinion, have started getting more excited about like taking the ride to the studio, listening to
Yeah.
music, going there, getting makeup done, hitting the ride like the little smoothie bar. Like they enjoy that because it's part of the experience that maybe players took it for granted before. Maybe back in the day, I don't know. Maybe players who are older do, but I just see players that like kind of enjoy I've got my clean jersey. I'm like kind of like I'm enjoying today. It's a slower pace. Like it's a slow, kind of exciting lead up to playing on stage, and anything can happen when you're on stage. So they should enjoy it. Like if you have a player who's
Yeah.
not enjoying it, like we're doing something wrong, or he needs to like change his approach to how he uses it. But it should be the most enjoyable part of your week. All your hard work leads up to that, like 2 days.
The studio
Is
is wild.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
is there any practiced uncomfortableness with any esport team that you've encountered where you're like, all right, in scrim blocks, we're gonna have the heater on to like 100 every day, so that way once you're there in front of the lights, it's gonna feel like nothing. Like some like, is there any physical
Teams have done that
practice
for
kind of
sure.
like you get uncomfortable chairs, all right, and we're gonna set the screen like 3 inches lower than where it should be because we want you to like crank your neck, or I don't know, like random physical uncomfortable things.
I'll talk about it, but like Ryan, have you tried it yourself, or have you heard about teams doing it?
Uh, I heard the converse for like Overwatch, where Korean players would just be like, and they have
Oh.
to adjust it to like they have to make them as comfortable, or they get really really upset, or
Yeah.
like everything has to be perfect, or they get really really upset. I think for me, when I'm trying to expose them to uncomfortable things, it's like team building things. Okay, I'm gonna give you this thing to play in. Here are the parameters and the rules. Make it work. And now I'm gonna watch how y'all react, and then I'll see. Okay, this person is doing this or complaining. Do they do this anywhere else in the game? Oh, okay. How's that? What was that like when this person was complaining or they didn't want to do this or whatever? And so it's a team effort to kind of make them uncomfortable and then bringing it up to their attention and then seeing how that uncomfortability and how they react to that thing affects them in game. And then how can we practice? Like then it's figuring out. Okay, it's about education, it's about exposure. How can we like, do this more? So it's more of those things. Because if I try to disrupt their practice, then the coach gets mad. Because I'm not Big Daddy Robert Yip, the director. So I have to kind of go with what the coach wants to do. So that's how I kind of slide it in there. But if I was director,
Yeah.
what would I do? I don't know, Robert. What would I do as director?
Because well, I'll just say because I have seen this in the world of traditional sports, where some teams they will intentionally do random stuff.
Loudspeakers. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll do loudspeakers. I've seen it like, okay, maybe it's tennis. You play with a tiny racket. It's like this big, so that way you can improve your accuracy. You know, that kind of thing with
That's
your
pickleball.
with your swing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like different things that they'll do to intentionally like overtax and make it uncomfortable with the idea or the hope that once you get to game day, it's gonna be just so much easier, right? Like in the military, they intentionally like sleep restrict you and have you do all this craziness, and then
easy,
like,
yeah.
okay, well, yeah, let's see how you play with this, and if you can play well here, then you're gonna play better when you're well rested, that kind of thing, you know. So anyway, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Robert.
Oh no, I was actually thinking about the tiny tennis racket and be like, why not just try to be accurate with a normal tennis racket? I'm not sure how much carryover there is. I think that's the main thing for me is like, as I've looked more into like mental toughness, subjecting people to adversity or things that are mentally tough doesn't always have the effect. It doesn't always hit as much as if you're actually like subjecting them to things that are like it's like more real. Like toughness for the sake of toughness is often not that great unless like the people want it or unless there's like some shared experience out of it, especially from like a team. Like, hey, we're going on a monster hike and
Yeah.
it's going to be hard. Like we're going to do that, and the only learning lesson is it's going to be hard, and I want you guys to finish it. That's it together. Like that's fine. We've done stuff like playing like crowd noises or like TSM chanting noises like on loudspeakers while they're playing. Things like that I think are fine. Like I like subjecting them. I like exposing them.
Exposing, yes.
I like exposing them to things that they will have to like actually do like in the future, for example, or like things that are different that make them think. So Ryan, you know, like how monotonous scrims can be. You sit down, you do the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day over and over again. Like small things like, hey, we'll have a training day where you guys have to come in wearing your scrim clothes. And then we'll play the game. It's like, okay. And then if you guys win 3 out of 5 games, like you can dress back into your normal clothes, for example.
Ooh, I like that.
I've never had like players push back on that, and I think it's fun because it makes them a little bit more aware about like, oh, okay, today is like proper training day. We focus where the coach is picking the heart, like the drafts for stage, etc. And like they look the part, and when you look the part, they feel the part. You know, they do their hair up and everything like that, and it just like adds an extra layer of gloss on top of it to prepare them for the next day. I remember it depends how far you push it. It just depends on that. Like I remember one time I got all their mice and keyboard and mouse pads and put them on a separate table from their desks so that they had to go and what you do now is you walk on stage with your stuff in your hand and you set it all up. So they came down like, what the, like, why is all our stuff here? I'm like, oh, like on LCS day, you're going to, have to grab your stuff and set it up and make sure everything's good. And they're like, oh, and they grabbed their stuff and they did it. And like things like that. It's just a small thing. It's like a primer for what you're going to do. And that was like on the stage practice day, for example, like, or you've got, today, like there's an audio file. I want you guys to play it. It's like the white noise from LCS that I got. So you're going to play with the whole time. So it forces them to speak louder. And also, I had a player come out of it going, I want to play with this all the time because it's like the Pavlovian response to like, I'm on stage now. Yeah. Right. And like, he liked it. And, small things like that, I think you can add into practice to just change it up a little bit to give you a different feeling. And if you get a different feeling, it's going to change your mindset. And if your mindset's different, like it's going to like heighten your focus. Like all those things it's a small enough familiar distraction so that instead of, think about the kind of inverted U theory, instead of them being like under aroused, it'll make them over aroused. It's a familiar feeling that, if you do it all the time, it loses the effect. If you do it sometimes, it can kind of help. And I think those things like can be like useful as an aid depending on the players that you have. I know other teams that have like they do some exercises before they play, so then when they sit down, they're kind of like in a more heightened sense, like their heart rate's going a little bit more. So your body can't tell the difference between anxiety and elevated heart rate sometimes. Like let's see how you play. These are all just like things that just make practice, I think, more fun. I don't think being hard for the sake of being hard is great, but trying to make practice different or interesting, I think, is honestly the job of the coach, because coaches only have like a strong effect in the practice. Like you can set things up where, Ryan, I'm gonna pick Ryan a champion he's like uncomfortable with, and it's like, hey, like this will happen or this could happen. So you feel this feeling now and be okay with it than only dealing with it later on. Yeah. So exposure therapy, I guess, is the right one.
Absolutely. And then at the same time, I'm thinking with that, it's like, oh, well, if I lost because of this, it's like, all right, well, I've already set up this thing for you to fail. And if you succeed, that's great. At the same time, the project is not, well, it's, operate as best you can. At the same time, the side task is, can you manage your mental through this frustration and push forward? Because if you can do that, that's exactly what I want you to practice, like pushing forward and not paying attention or fixating on the things that are irritating, but always moving forward and finding that next win condition for yourself. We're doing mental practice today.
You might know that you have to do it, but you don't know if you can handle it. So the 3 layers of confidence, like number 1, the biggest confidence boost is like if you've done it before. Number 2 is if you've seen someone else do it before. And number 3, if I tell you, hey, I think you can do it. I believe in you, right? So you're trying to basically give them a better source of confidence for themselves where they've actually done it. They know how it feels. They know how good or bad it feels. Mm-hmm. And hey, I survived. At the end of it, it was not a great experience, but I survived. Great. I know I can actually survive, which is your role, right? In a game. It's like, hey, you just need to hang in there. A lot of times, like, I like Korean players use the term like, oh, what's your job? It's like, oh, hang in there, or just hang in. Like, my job is just to like
survive,
play weak side, survive. Like, you know, somebody's probably very good at that, but like otherwise, you're just going in with that, like I said, the like a really poor form of confidence where it's like the coach says, yeah, you got this, or you even tell yourself like, I got this, but you've not done it before. So
do I have this? I think I got this.
And when you're in the moment, you're so focused on like actually surviving, you're not actually sure that you can. Mm-hmm. So you might as well, like, it's kind of like you know, if you're kind of training for like a 5K or a 10K, it's like, you know, you can probably do it. Like, you bringing people to the gym or doing things outside your comfort zone, like, just to make sure that people survive. Number 1, make sure that they can do it, and then number 2, make sure they have fun for everything.
I like that. I think the fun part gets missed, especially as seasons progress and if they're not doing so well.
Yeah,
I feel like the fun part gets tricky to try to do.
And then managing relationships all through it, because if we're all not having fun together, right? What the find the person that is causing us not to have fun.
Yeah.
There's a big like people underestimate how much like losing affects like teams, like every team from first to 10th. Like when you lose, you feel really bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's really tough, and like it's you don't just kind of go, damn, I lost, and then you just start like load back up into the game again and practicing hard. Like it takes a toll, and players actually get over it quite fast compared to what you'd expect. Which is like, you can look at it both sides. Number one, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe they got over it so fast. Like they should really be feeling the anger of losing, and like it should sit with them for longer. And then the other one is like, I'm glad they're getting over it fast because you know what? We're working 6 days in a week, and what did they do on their off day? Probably play more league. Like the more you dwell on something, the less bounce back ability or resilience you have towards what actually happened, and you're just shooting yourself in the foot if you're going to dwell on it for days or a week. You've got a game to do, you got scrims to do, so you'll try to get over it as fast as possible because that's your only recourse. As long as you are taking your lessons and changing your approach going forward, that's fine.
So we're talking about like relationships a lot with these teams and like within a particular team. What do you think is the minimum time that you should give a player or someone as part of this actual team, whether it be coach or whatever, before you say it's time to go? Because I feel like what I see in esports right now is the roster changeover is just crazy. It's like now it's like almost with even in seasons, like we're seeing like within a season, there's roster changeover, and it's like most teams do not want to carry a team and actually try to develop them. They would rather just be like, all right, screw it. Let's just like press the reset button and get a full new staff, right? Surely it'll work better this time. Like, is that the right approach? Or do you feel like, okay, we should at least give a player 2 seasons or something, like these like multi-year contracts with people, which I don't really see as much anymore. Like, how do you feel about that? Because it's hard to develop relationships within a team when you just constantly change out the people who are in that team,
Yeah, I'm gonna field it to Ryan, but I'm gonna just add a little layer before he jumps in and say that I think that if you have a culture or if you have players that have been basically conditioned or shown that, hey, if I speak up about a teammate that I don't like and a change happens, that's going to be their go-to instead of actually trying to fix the relationship or the problem. They're going to immediately jump to replacement is what I should be doing. But I'd like to hear from Ryan on this one.
That's a really interesting question because the immediate thing that I thought about was COD, and like the COD turnover is so insane.
I didn't want to name any names, but yeah.
Like the mid swap, the pre swap, like they can change out players so fast, and I think it's a little bit different because it is sorry, I think it's a little bit different because like the season is really fast. And at some points, you kind of know, like, okay, this is not going to work. At the same time, I think sometimes in League, even changing players, the thought is, okay, if I change this player, we're going to go, okay, it's going to be fine. We got the problem out. They're going to have a honeymoon stage, and it's going to be like 3 months or 2 months or whatever. We'll ride that, and then we'll fire the coach or whatever if it gets bad again. And then once that happens, we'll have another honeymoon, but then you're not really fixing problems. You're just, like, patching them up or just villainizing someone to get them out to boost camaraderie. Me personally,
I feel like there's so much I feel like there's so much scapegoats going on rather than actually trying to resolve whatever the underlying issue is.
Yes. I mean, I would love to see teams stay together for a split or more, because I think if you actually spent the time, like, okay, all right, we're not the best always, but we actually have 5 players that are commit to, okay, we want to make this better. That's the thing I want to see, because I think that's when you actually begin to build dynasties and actual true synergy, because maybe it's like, it doesn't work well. It's kind of like the metaphor, maybe it's like, you have a crooked golf club, but you swing this crooked golf club, and you've learned how to hit it onto the green, and I think sometimes it's like that with teams, like, okay, we all know the bad habits of this player, we know the good habits of these players, so we can kind of predict what they're going to do, and it works for us, but I feel like people are swinging this club, they say, oh, it's crooked, fuck this club, let's grab another crooked club, and that's it. Versus trying to learn how to swing it, you know what I mean? But that being said, sometimes you have to change the players because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, there's a lot of times where there's like someone who's really toxic, or it's just like really not jiving with the rest of the team and what their goals are and all this kind of stuff. Like, and I fully understand that, but I've seen like a significant decrease in the amount of multi-year contracts that are happening. Like,
or if they do have a multi-year contract, they get bought out or sold, and then it's like, the contract is like nothing permanent? ? It's just like, okay, I know they're getting paid for a season or 2.
Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it is what I'm saying. I could just
I don't
from
like it.
my
Conclusion.
no, I mean I mean true like I think personally that's to the detriment of a lot of these teams. As just taking from parallel arenas from what I've seen is usually like, in traditional sports and the tactical setting and in like, police and in military, to really build those like team cohesions. And, yeah, you mentioned the dynasties, right? Of like some of these teams, it's built off of a couple like key players who were there the entire time and really got to know and work well with each other, right? Like it's really rare that you have a dynasty built around one individual. Usually it's got to be at least two, right? I mean, you look at like Belichick and Brady or whatever, right? Like it's usually at least two players, or it could be coach and player, whatever. But like these two people who are there to like really set the foundation at a minimum. And I feel like that's in esports, it's just like a stark difference. And I feel like I don't know if it's just the last couple of years or it's been a little bit weird in esports, but in general, I see that trend is just like it's moving in the opposite direction, and that concerns me a little bit for some of the future of like. At least in NA, like just change over rosters or just like left and right. Or just like, oh, I was working with this player, and then I'll get a message from the coach. By the way, don't help out this player anymore because we're thinking of cutting him. And I'm like, you just brought him in. What do you mean? Like I just get these like little side messages, and I'm like, this is so frustrating. So anyway, sorry. I mean, I'm just the nutrition guy. You guys know better than I do, but
I guess it's hard. It's hard, like to because like you mentioned, like Belichick and like Brady, for example. Like there's only a few players that have. I guess like Core JJ, for example, Blabber, for example. Like there are players on teams, Bjergsen on TSM, that were that one player that was built around, and like they had changes in coaches, but like you could build around a player, but you can really only build around a player that I guess Brady's different because like in American football it's like quarterback, but there are just teams that you can build around players in traditional sports that they, I guess like they're kind of like like they have their own gravitational pull where no matter what players you put on there, they're going to be able to like just hold it all together. And like they are the best players in their regions, like for the most part. So it's you get what you pay for. So I think that if you can find a player that you can build around in the long term, it's great. That's like super cool. But I think
it could also be two players. It doesn't have to be a player. Like I mean, you got like Pippen and Jordan, right? That kind of stuff. And,
I think in esports the only differentiating factor is 5. You have 5 players, 20% each. If one of your players is a bad apple, that's 20% of your entire squad. That's a bad apple. If you have one player that doesn't want to practice, 20%. One player that goes home at 5, 20%. One player that is like like a little bit toxic or aloof, 20%. So it has such a big bearing that like it's almost like if I can get rid of this 20%, it doesn't click, and if I can find one, we're whole again. We have Exodia, we can fix everything, right? It's perfect. But getting in that last piece is hard because most rosters have a half-life of like a year to 2. Then after 2 years, it kind of gets a bit stale. There's only been a few exceptions to that. You got to keep recycling while retaining some players. I think C9 do a really good job of that. No matter what move they make, they tend to just make it work. So like kudos to them on like scouting and making sure that their culture is like from top down really strong. I think for other teams, it's just hard to figure out what clicks because there's an inherent like shuffling of the deck and like, okay, pick a card, any card, and you try to figure out like, try to look for little marks on the card to see which one is like, I think that one is the jack, and then you pick it up, it's like a 2, like, okay, it wasn't what we wanted. And by the time you're like trying to find the missing pieces, the pieces that you already have, there's that, the more time you spend together, you're trying to you focus more on, and you can only see what they can't do rather than what they're good at. And you kind of lose that spark or whatever worked beforehand, and you can lose a lot of patience while you're trying to figure out like how to make the squad like fully functional. So the Crooked Golf Club is a great example of like, hey guys, like this is our golf club. We need to like learn to sit with this and be okay with it, because like I'll give it to this guy who's a pro driver and he'll knock at 300 yards. Like he'll just be like, yeah, I'll use his stick. I'll use just like baseball bat and I'll knock the golf ball 300 yards. I'll do it because he doesn't care. He's just very good at it. I think one thing is that esports moves like very fast. You meet up, you do your team meeting with the squad. Everyone's excited. Everyone's like, you're all on like, I would say even just like positive, even not even neutral, positive about like what's going to happen. And then like, okay, let's go. And then you like sprint to your computer and you start playing the video games and you review. And over time, it just like, it just erodes. Unless you've got a good team, then sure. But like, if you have a good team, all it does is helps you overcome difficulties a little bit better because you have that respect for each other. But if you have a team that's like struggling from the get-go, every interaction can be like a little bit tough. I just like a team to sit there in the beginning and be like, hey, this is our team, this is your coach. You guys are all excited to be here, right? Everyone's like, yeah, really excited. Like, you guys want to play your teammates? Yeah, I really want to play with my teammates. Like, why? Like, do you want to play with your teammates? What are you excited for? Like, what are you most excited to do in the game, outside of the game? Like, build it up so that they're like, they have that shared sense of like, yeah, let's just remind each other why we are here now before we played a single game and why we're excited and why we should be excited going forward. Like, how are we going to deal with conflict? How are we going to deal with problems? You know, how are we going to deal with issues that we have, differences between like how we're going to practice? Like, you talk about all of that before you do it, because it's like going back to the confidence thing. I trust myself to be in the middle of a conflict situation and kind of like wade through it. But if I can prevent it, if I can do some preventative measure to make it easier for when it actually does happen, I'm down for that. But mostly just to get the guys thinking deeper about why they're here and the people around them. That's it, because they're going to get lost in the sauce when it comes to the game. They're going to like deep dive in there, and it's like you got to come up for air. It's like, nope, I'm going back down again. So finding those times, I think the best time to do it is like the very beginning.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so funny having that conversation. It's like, oh, we're not going to, I don't like drama. It's fine. We don't, no drama here. Let's not talk, like, we're going to talk about our problems. Okay.
We're a brotherhood. We're a family. It's like family fight. Family rip each other apart. So
yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, do you want to tell him what made you upset? No, he should know. Okay, do you want to tell him what you want instead? Oh, no, I mean, he should do the opposite. That's what I want. Okay, you want to tell him? No. All right, so do you know how this is creating drama? Because now you're not saying anything, you're upset, you're giving him the cold shoulder, he's asking you, now you're not telling him, you see how this is... Yeah, but if we talk about it, then we actually have a problem. Yeah, we don't talk about it, we have a bigger problem.
And it's, you know what it's like to be the middleman as well.
Oh, yeah, dude. Okay, do you want to even say how that made you feel? No.
You're in the middle, you're like freaking... those old shows from the 90s where they're like, they have a relationship problem and then have some person mediating them. And Brian's just well, you know, this it made Robert feel like this, you know, he told me this, and you know, Casey's like, well, Ryan, tell Robert this.
Yeah. Did you ever do the thing where you're like you send like some flowers and say that it's from the other, you know?
Oh my God!
From the other player.
They want to meet you here. Or, they want to meet you here.
Esports would be like, okay, hey, that player that you have a problem with bought you a skin. Isn't that so nice?
Yeah. He bought you this coffee.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. My wallet's empty, completely empty.
He wants to meet you in the middle of ARAM.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's ARAM, baby.
Yeah, that's ARAM, baby.
Dude. But seriously, it's so funny because like it's full circle. Now we were talking about it. It's like, yeah, we can create these teams, or when working with people, at the end of the day, we're not working with players, we're working with people. And we're dealing with human problems, especially when it comes to teams. So once we form the team, after that, it's, okay, can we be good humans together? How can I teach these people social skills, or like be aware of what they're doing and how what they're doing affects other people, or how even what they think about themselves or doing to themselves affects them, and then the people around them too. Esports is just a side parallel step from whatever you're doing in life and how you interact with everybody else, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, think about how you feel when you play like your friends in League, for example. That's how you want it to be all the time. But then think about how, like, if you're
how
playing
my rank games go.
Yeah, how your rank games go. And like, you know, that's just something that you can't really control. But like, games can be like that, where, you know, people are trying hard. I mean, you can get a rank game where people try hard, but you just get blasted. And then for ranked is great. You can just go next and find a new team, and it's like ranked is like grapes. It's like new opportunities. Anything can happen. Like,
that's right.
The fruit of choice. But if imagine you're playing ranked and you keep on ending up with the same guy that inted you, or the same guy that's not good on your team over and over again, no matter how much you press find game, that would be frustrating. And that's kind of like what it can be sometimes, where it's like, oh, rather than run away and click find game or go next, you actually have to fix your problems.
No, let's just run.
Just run?
Let's run. That's so much easier.
Just go ARAM instead. Yeah.
Just go ARAM. That's always the answer.
Go next game completely, right? Like, just play Fortnite or something.
I want to play some ARAM now.
Dude, honestly, after this, I was like, dude, we should actually like play some ARAM. I'm down. That's a later stream, and then once we like 1v5, that's ARAM, baby. I saw the angle. Wait, you guys weren't behind me? Like, I thought we said we were gonna go. No.
Oh, you've got glasses. I trust you with glasses. You can clearly see more.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then, also if it's side to side, perfect.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I'm
dude.
sure Elliot's down.
Dude, he's always down. So is Matt. I'm pretty sure we could find a nice little a fiver for sure.
Yeah, we could.
And also Jordan for sure can coach us all the way there.
Oh, all the time. All the time.
Yeah. I'll just pick his Swain and just keep it for myself.
Oh, he'll be so mad.
I know.
Yeah.
Dude, I lost track of time. I know that you guys stuff going on later on today. So thank you so much for spending so much time, with us.
Oh, it was awesome. So much fun.
Whenever you're free and want to come back, let us know and we'll do it again. This was really, really super fun and I enjoyed the conversation.
I came for the munchies, but stayed for the mind.
Hey, that's what it's about. That's what it's about,
it.
baby. So, for you, Robert, where can, maybe some takeaways, some remembers these things for the fans? Like, what would you say are Robert's remembers or your final
Robert
facts?
remembers. Oh God, really testing. I think just from what we spoke about, esports players are people. They have feelings, they have emotions, they feel good, they feel bad, they try their best. They are not who they are not. So they are not just, hey, let's just copy and paste what other players in other regions do, and if they can't do it, say that they're bad. I think there's like quite a lot of players that work really, really hard, and I think when it comes to like I guess teams from top to bottom, like every team has their own unique style. Every team is trying to work with what they have resource wise. I think like transparency is like big for me. Like I'm always down to answer questions about like processes and how we do things, and just generally just like value structure. So I think it's really important for me. And like I've had successes in the past where like it works, and you try to replicate them in the future or in the present, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't take away from the fact that everyone's like trying really hard. So it was nice to jump on the show and like chat to you guys about it and get your perspective on things. I really, really enjoy talking to other people in esports that are like not even like-minded, but like just have opinions about and want to talk about the things that I'm really passionate about. And I think it's kind of, there's a lot of negativity currently going around, especially with LCS and things like that, but there's a lot to be positive about. There's a lot of good people. The Game Changers program itself that was on recently was amazing. And just like take a little portion of that and spread that around to like everyone else, and I think we'll be doing really well for ourselves.
Yeah, I think we all, like all three of us, like truly are passionate about just the world of esports in general, right? Like we do want and the people in it too. And I think that's with there is some little bit of negativity going around recently, and but I do think that people like us, and hopefully we can change some thoughts and things, and with you guys, at least you guys can help them have better minds and better relationships.
So short, man.
I just tell people what to eat. I just tell people what to eat. All right, you guys actually work on the mental.
You do a lot of psych stuff because there's a lot of values and beliefs that are wrapped up in eating, and sometimes, honestly, when you start to change people's perceptions about food and what they can do to improve their performance, it makes our jobs easier too, because that's a foot in the door. Oh, I talked with Casey, and like he said, if I just think about this differently, or I ate a vegetable and that was my success for the week. Okay, cool. If you can eat a vegetable, how'd you do that? What'd you think differently? Oh, I was just, I thought like instead of thinking, oh, it's a chore, it's something that I wanted to do for myself. Okay, cool. What else do you want to do for yourself, man? Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling.
Broccoli leads to success. That's what I'm taking from that.
I'm getting a T-shirt with that on it.
Yeah. So, some of the things that I really liked was just reintroducing the social and the face-to-face. And I know, Ryan, you're a fan of like cameras always on when you're interacting with them, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's huge. And I think it's something that I am guilty of, just because my natural introverted nature, like I need to move back into that more. But the big takeaway that I took was it's not too late for us. So it's not too late.
Golden League, baby.
I need you to send me that LCS file so I can get hyped, and I'll be blasting that on loud when I'm working, and just be like, I'm getting ready, boys. So there it is.
That's my takeaway too. There was a chance. There's still a chance for us.
There's still a chance.
There's still a chance, baby. And then the other thing was like I want to continue thinking about and chewing on the active recovery for my brain.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really cool concept that I can try to imply or employ, especially with players too. Like, hey, what else are you doing, like, other than the game to exercise or recover, instead of just like playing MapleStory or like laying down doing nothing.
It's targeted.
Yeah, maybe, you know, or not going to the gym, you know, meow. So things like that. That end, the last thought I'm having is, why the fuck did we not do this sooner, Robert? Like, bro, where have you been all our lives, man?
I know.
Long time lurker.
Long time lurker, first time caller. So, dude, whenever you're free, let us know. We'll do this again. And
Post Japan.
Post Japan, or
yeah.
maybe we're waiting for the vlogs and the. I want to see the video of the guys splitting it. Maybe you can show us start with a slideshow. I'm down.
Yeah, it'll just be Mind and Munchies and just like a slideshow of Japan.
All the Munchies from Japan. Yeah.
Oh my god, I need to take a lot of photos.
I'll try to narrate it. I'll just make up stories for all the different photos.
That's perfect. I won't have any backstory at all.
And then lastly, dude, where can people find you? Shout yourself out. What you got coming up?
Coach Yip on Twitter and Instagram, I think, but I'm not really active on Instagram with that one. But definitely Coach Yip on Twitter, and my DMs are always open for people that have questions.
Nice. And then Casey, what you got going on, man, this week? Where can people find you?
Yeah, at Casey Thomas RD is me on Twitter. I don't have other social handles, and I'm trying to get better about replying on the Twitter. So, say hello. Check it out, and more than happy to do what I can to help everybody out. Love talking about nutrition.
It's funny because you're like, all of the reason like, oh yeah, come say hi to me, and you're like, oh my god, so many people are saying hi. It's hard for me to reply to everybody.
Dude, I say that every week, and no one comes and says hi to me. I'm sad, actually. Like, I've got 0 people who say hi.
This is the week.
I know. Maybe we'll see.
And then, as always, you can find me on Twitter at ThePsychSensei, Twitch is ThePsychSensei, and then YouTube's dropping, and all kinds of content dropping on the YouTubes or whatever. So find all that content on my website, PsychSensei.com, so you never miss any of those drops. But thank you for joining us for Mind and Munchies +1, featuring Master Coach Yip of Immortals. And please be safe this week. And whenever something goes wrong, the tagline is, "That's ARAM, baby."
That's ARAM, baby. Peace out.
Take it easy. Pieces. Love ya. Bye.